Hello and welcome to another episode of the Spaghetti Westerns podcast. This is season 5, episode 7, number 107. Today we're going to do a mini Gordon Scott episode. He only did 2 Euro Westerns or Spaghetti Westerns, so haven't got a lot of films to cover, but we'll cover him and we'll cover some of the other actors that he worked with, and we'll get into a little depth on the 2 Euro Westerns that he did make. Okay, so we're also going to talk about whatever happened to him. And then if who are those guys will be Merko Ellis, who plays the lead in Buffalo Bill, Hero of the Far West as the lead Indian. And we'll have a poster of the week, autograph of the week. So let's get started. History of the Spaghetti Westerns is Buffalo Bill, Hero of the Far West. We're still in 1964, and most of the films now are getting better and better, but they still don't get into the main spaghetti feel. Remember, this is the same year that Fistful came out, so we still see a lot of these films, even though the production values have increased, they still look a lot like either American films or Winnetou films. This one is no exception. This is an Italian, German, French co-production. The Italian title is Buffalo Bill, L'Héros del Far West. The German title is Das war Buffalo Bill. The French title is Buffalo Bill, Les Héros du Far West, and also L'Attaque de Fort Adams. The UK title was just Buffalo Bill, and the USA title is Buffalo Bill, Hero of the Far West. The director is John W. Fordson. That's an alias for Mario Costa. The producer was Sally V. Bianco. Story was by Nino Stressa. Screenplay was by Luis Agote, Pierre Corti, which is actually Pierre Levi Corti, Luciano Martino, Nino Stressa, his real name is Sigfrido Tamba, and Ernesto Gastaldi. So a couple of names there, at least Italian names, you'll see later on in the genre. Cinematography is by a guy named Jack Dalmas. Actually, that's Massimo Dallamano, and we'll see him pop up in Fistful of Dollars as the cinematographer. Music is by Carlo Rusticelli. We'll talk about him when we do the CD of the week. Running time was 100 minutes. The main cast is played by Colonel William Cody, or Buffalo Bill, as Gordon Scott. Big Sam Donaldson was played by Richard Stuyvesant, who's actually Mario Brega. Mary Peterson was played by Ingeborg Schoner. Captain George Hunter is played by Hans von Borsody. Yellowhand was played by Merko Ellis. Chief Wise Owl, or White Owl, is played by Fyodor Shaliapin. It's actually Junior. George shows up as Frank Farrell, which is Francisco Fantasia. There's a sergeant in here played by Andrea Fantasia. That's Francisco's older brother. Snack, played by Hugo Arden. Real name is Hugo Sasso. And Red, played by Peter Lull as Piero Lulli. Story goes as such. Colonel William Cody, alias Buffalo Bill, played by Gordon Scott, intends to put an end to the dishonest relations between a gang of white swindlers and the Indian Yellowhand, played by Merko Ellis. So he goes to the chief of Yellowhand's tribe, Wise Fox, played by Fyodor Shaliapin Jr., and tries to convince him to sign a peace treaty with the federal troops. In order to avoid this, Yellowhand abducts Wise Fox's daughter, Rayon de Lune, which is actually in English Silver Moonbeam, played by Catherine Ribeiro, pretending that the soldiers have done it. The plan succeeds and a conflict arises between the Indians and the soldiers. Peace is restored thanks to Buffalo Bill, who defeats Yellowhand in a savage one-on-one fight. As far as talking points are concerned, film has a feel of an American film, whereas others have theorized a Winnetou film, and was at a stage where Italian films were crossing over from peplum, sword and sandal films, to westerns and incorporating some of the stars of the fading genre into the new craze. The film was started actually in 1963, but was delayed for 6 months because of differences between director Mario Costa and producer Sally Bianco over filming locations. Costa claimed it was the first spaghetti western, but came out after Fistful because of the delay, and he thought his film never got the recognition it deserved. There's an Indian-style duel near the end of the film to determine who's telling the truth and who isn't. This offers the peplum and female viewers a chance to see Scott stripped to the waist and show off his muscle-bound frame. The good news, director Costa keeps the action coming fast and furious. The famous Gordon Scott's broken nose incident. And we touched on this when we did the Mario Brega special. But we'll go over it again real quick. Scott and Mario Brega, appearing under the alias Richard Stuyvesant, the same alias he was billed under in Fistful of Dollars, were having a staged fistfight in a saloon scene, and Mario supposedly misunderstood an instruction to block a punch and threw one himself, breaking Scott's nose. According to Brega, he didn't get along with Scott, and they eventually came to blows, so maybe Scott and Brega didn't get along, and Brega used the fight scene to really throw some real punches and broke Scott's nose. You be the judge. As far as trivia is concerned, Buffalo Bill and Yellow Hand were both real Wild West characters, only it's yellow hair, not hand, with Cody shooting and killing the Indian in real life with his Winchester and then scalping him. The press at that time, headlines claimed, the first scalp for Custer. Buffalo Bill would later use it in an act in his Wild West show. I always wondered how the Indians felt about this during the Wild West presentation of him scalping Indians. Anyways, two of the film's members appear in Fistful, which may be a reason Costa was upset about his lack of acknowledgement. Brega was again billed as Richard Stuyvesant. Jack Dalmas was billed as Massimo Dallamano, the cinematographer. As far as actor bios, Colonel William Cody, Buffalo Bill, is played by Gordon Scott. I'll cover him in our next segment, Whatever Happened to Gordon Scott. Big Sam Donaldson was played by Richard Stuyvesant, who's actually Mario Brega. Mario Brega was born Florestano Brega in Rome in 1923 and died there in 1994. And I covered him in his own special episode number 97. Mary Peterson was played by Ingeborg Schoner. She was born in Wiesbaden, Hesse, Germany on July 2nd, 1935. She's still active in film and TV. She was married to director-writer George Marischka, born George Peter Paul Franz Marischka in 1922. He died in 1999. She's the mother of journalist Juliette Marischka, born in 1963, and actress Nicole Marischka, born in 1968, and also the grandmother of actors Joey Marischka, born in 2002, and Nico Marischka, born in 2007. Schoner has appeared in over 120 films and TV series since 1954. She appeared in one other Western, Legacy of the Incas, in 1965 as Mrs. Ruiz. Okay, Captain George Hunter was played by Hans von Borsody. Hans Edward Herbert von Borsody was born in Vienna, Austria on September 20th, 1929. He was a theater, film, TV, and voice actor, and also a singer. He was the son of producer-director Edward von Borsody, born in 1898 and died in 1970, and concert pianist Mary Hochreiter. He was married 3 times and the father of director-actress Suzanne von Borsody, born in 1957, and actress Cosima von Borsody, born in 1966. He appeared in 100 films and TV appearances from 1955 to 2012. He died in Kiel, Germany on November 4th, 2013. His only Euro-Western besides this was Tom in the previously covered Juanito in 1959. Yellowhand was played by Merko Ellis, and I'll cover him today in our Who Are Those Guys segment. Okay, moving right along, we'll touch on whatever happened to Gordon Scott. Okay, Gordon Scott. Gordon Scott was born Gordon Merrill Wurschkel in Portland, Oregon on August 3rd, 1926. He had 8 brothers and sisters. He attended the University of Oregon for 1 semester before being drafted into the U.S. Army in 1944, where he served as a drill sergeant and MP until 1949. During his military duty, he married Janice May Wincoop. She was born in 28 and died in 2006. They were married from 1947 to 1950, and he's the father of Karen Judith Wurschkel, who was born in 1948. When Scott left the service, he worked in several jobs, including a lifeguard at the Sahara Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, where he was spotted by a talent scout. Mainly due to his physique and height, 6'3", he was quickly signed to replace Lex Barker as Tarzan in 1955's Tarzan's Hidden Jungle, co-starring Vera Miles. Her real name is Vera June Ralston. She was born in 1929 and she's still with us. He married her a year later. They had a son, Michael, who was born in 1957. The Tarzan film was successful and was followed up by Tarzan and the Lost Safari, the first color Tarzan with Woody Strode. Producer Saul Lesser sold Scott's contract to Cy Weintraub, who took Scott to Paramount, where he starred in bigger productions of Tarzan character and 2 of the most successful films in the genre, Tarzan's Greatest Adventure in 1959 and Tarzan the Magnificent in 1960. Scott's character also saw changes from being unworldly and inarticulate, which because of Scott's lack of acting background was based on Johnny Weissmuller's characterization, to becoming a well-educated and articulate as in the original Edgar Rice Burroughs novels. With the breakup of his marriage to Vera Miles in 1960 and fearing he would be typecast, Scott moved to Italy and became a popular star in sword and sandal films. He became friends with many of the American bodybuilders who were working in these films, including Gordon Mitchell and Steve Reeves. He and Reeves collaborated in 1961's Duel of the Titans, where I still recall the advertising gimmick of Steve Hercules Reeves meets Gordon Tarzan Scott. Gordon would then go on to other successful films, including Samson and the 7 Miracles of the World in 1962, Goliath and the Vampires in 63, and Danger Death Ray in 1965. During his days in Italy, he made 2 spaghetti westerns, Buffalo Bill, Hero of the Far West, which we just covered and was made in 64, and the following year in 65, The Tramplers, which we'll cover in a few minutes. After The Tramplers, Scott quit acting altogether. He left Italy and never made another film. He had made a total of 27 films in 12 years. Back in the States, he apparently ran into financial difficulties and became a heavy drinker. I remember Gordon Mitchell telling me and Bill Connolly that several times he tried to track Gordon down to see if he wanted to be in a film or work on making one. He knew he lived on a boat in Marina del Rey, so Gordon would hit the bars, and several times Gordon got word someone was trying to find him, and thinking it was a debt collector, he would duck out of the bar just before Gordon arrived. In 1971, he did surface to make an appearance on the Mike Douglas TV show with the other 5 surviving Tarzan actors. Here's a picture of the group. Finally, in the 1990s, Gordon was approached and agreed to appear at film festivals and autograph shows, where he was still warmly remembered by his many fans. When I saw him, he was always polite, unassuming, and quiet. Often he would have a table next to Steve Reeves. His last few years were spent in Baltimore, Maryland, in a row house owned by Roger and Betty Thomas. Betty says, "My husband had been a fan of his since he was a child. When we were in Hollywood about 8 years ago, we looked him up. We invited him for a visit. He came and never left." Scott passed away in Baltimore, Maryland on April 30th, 2007, following complications from heart surgery. He was 80 years old. Okay, now we'll move on to Who Are Those Guys and Merko Ellis. Okay, excuse me a sec while I get a swallow of water. It's tough to talk for 30 minutes straight on this stuff or anything. Merko Ellis was born Merko Lloyd Dona Alessandro Korsinski in Locarno, Switzerland on September 4th, 1923. His family is of Lithuanian origin. He originally lived and studied in Switzerland, and shortly after World War II, thanks to his attractive Aryan appearance, he was cast in the role of cynical Nazi officer, which he convincingly portrayed in the still highly acclaimed drama The Sun Rises Again, also known as Il Sole Sorge Ancora in 1946. He got a similar role, but this time in the comedy genre in the film The Damn War, which was in Italy, Accidente al Guerra, 1948. In 1947, he debuted on stage in the theatrical company of Maria Mulatto called Teatro di Satiri in Rome. It was at this time he began using the stage name Merko Ellis. He spent the 50s and 60s in front of the camera mainly in historical costume dramas and sword and sandal films. This era of Italian cinema is often ridiculed and condemned today, but Ellis was given several major opportunities in the films The Roman Gladiator in 62, Revolt of the Praetorians in 64, and several westerns. It is worth mentioning the role of the insidious rancher Joe Burker in the film Apache's Last Battle in 1964. On the right side of the law, he played the role of the sheriff in the films The Man from Nowhere in 67 and Killer Caliber 32. He also appeared alongside the then famous Michel Mercier in the international short story project Lady Hamilton in 67. In the following years, Merko Ellis limited his activities in front of the camera and began to appear more often in television series. His film career ended in 1978 when a last performance as a German officer in The Biggest Battle. He would appear 4 more times on television, but after turning 60, he lived privately in Sardinia. Merko Ellis lived into old age, and the media renewed interest in the long-forgotten actor came only in connection with his tragic death. He died on September 11, 2014, 10 days after his 91st birthday, as a result of a fall from a balcony on the 4th floor. It was speculated whether it was an accident or suicide. The fact remains that Merko Ellis left a significant mark on Western European cinema in the form of 70 film roles. Ellis was married to fellow actress Esther Mason. Some of his better-known spaghetti westerns or Euro westerns are Apache's Last Battle in 64. He played Joe Burker. Buffalo Bill, Hero of the Far West in 64. He played Yellow Hand. El Rojo in 66. He played Navarro. Also in 66, he played the man from nowhere, the sheriff. 67, he played Moxon or Morton in Hate for Hate. Also in 67, he played Sheriff Bear in Killer Caliber 32. In 71, he was the Yuma prison warden in Long Live Your Death with Steve Reeves. And his last spaghetti western was as Captain Sidney Fortis in 1973's Bad Kids of the West. Okay, now we'll move along to the film of the week, The Tramplers. Okay, this is the other Gordon Scott film. And it was an Italian film production called Gli Uomini del Passo Pesante. Known in the UK as Showdown, USA title was The Tramplers. Producers were Albert Band, Alvaro Mancoria, and Anna Maria Cretin, Chretien. Directors were Albert Band, Anthony Wiles, who's actually Mario Sequi. It's based on a short story, Guns of North Texas by Will Cook. Screenplay is by Albert Band and Ugo Liberatore. Cinematography is by Alvaro Mancori. It's in Eastman color and Pathé. Music is by Angelo Francesco Lavagnino and it runs 105 minutes. Cast consists of Temple Cordine, played by Joseph Cotton, Lon Cordine, played by Gordon Scott, Hobie Cordine, played by James Mitchum, Edith Wickett, played by Laria Occhini, Charlie Garvin, played by Franco Nero, Alice Cordine, played by Muriel Franklin, Mrs. Temple Cordine, played by Carol Brown, that's actually Carlo Callo, Jim Hennessy, played by Aldo Sassoni, Pete Wiley shows up as Franco Balducci, and we've talked about her before, the singer Edith Peters plays Emma. The story goes, in Texas after the Civil War, the old and rich Temple Cordine, played by Joseph Cotton, owner of a large farm, fights the law with his numerous offspring and with their help accomplishes punitive expeditions against the new representatives of the North, one of whom, a journalist, is lynched. But not all of his children share the uncontrollable, fierce hatred that Temple harbors, and not everyone accepts his tyrannical will. The return of the dissident son, Lon, played by Gordon Scott, causes a crisis by his sister Bess, played by Emma Vanoni, who's secretly in love with Charlie, played by Franco Nero. The three, after a futile attempt to control the rage of their relentless father, move away. Soon another Cordine, Hobie, played by James Mitchum, joins them. Temple, fearing his demonic rule is threatened, pursues them, even trying to kill them, and launches a long and absurd struggle which finally unites all the Cordines. I won't give away the final. Talking points include this film was made like a practice film for Corbucci's later The Hellbenders, which soon followed. It's a similar plot, but did not divide the family quite as much as this one does. Like Buffalo Bill, The Tramplers is somewhat based on historical fact that Texas kept the Confederate defeat from the public, and particularly the slaves, for as long as possible to keep them under Texas local government control. This is what I found in Howard Hughes' Once Upon a Time in the Italian West. Some sources note that The Tramplers was shot in Argentina. What actually happened was that band acquired some footage of gauchos driving a huge herd of cattle through the Argentine Pampas, courtesy of Mr. John Bryan O'Sullivan and the Argentina Estates of Lavro Limited, and incorporates the stock footage into his film The Tramplers. This explains why band's cast never appear in the same shot as the Argentine cattle. You'll also notice Franco Nero plays against type in this one, as he's very meek and mild character compared to his later roles as Django. Okay, actor bios. Temple Cordine was played by Joseph Cotton. Joseph Cheshire Cotton Jr. was born on May 15th, 1905, and was an American film, stage, radio, and television actor. Cotton achieved prominence on Broadway, starring in the original stage productions of The Philadelphia Story and Sabrina Affair. He then gained worldwide fame in three Orson Welles films, Citizen Kane in '41, The Magnificent Ambersons in '42, and Journey into Fear in '43, for which Cotton was also credited with the screenplay. Cotton went on to become one of the leading Hollywood actors of the 1940s. Multiple film critics and media outlets have cited him as one of the best actors never to have received an Academy Award nomination. Cotton returned to the stage occasionally as the 50s progressed, and he lent his solid presence to TV's courtroom anthology On Trial from '56 to '57. Robert Aldrich gave Cotton a classy, if hammy, villain role in Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte in 1964. Cotton was extremely prolific during the twilight years of his career, alternating schlocky U.S. and Italian-made melodramas and horror films. Bear and Blood in '72 by Mario Bava's The Greatest, The Hearse, 1980, Airport 77 in 1977. Throughout, he demonstrated, if not always exciting professionalism, regardless of the material, his slightly grim, firmly yet still delicate visage, always a welcome reminder of his halcyon days of yore. Cotton had suffered a debilitating stroke and heart attack in 1981 and fought for years to regain use of his baritone voice. Troubled intermittently by throat nodules, he had his larynx removed in 1990 because of cancer. He died of pneumonia at his home in Westwood, Los Angeles on February 6, 1994. He was 88 years old. Cotton appeared in two spaghetti westerns, The Hellbenders in '68 as Colonel Jonas and White Comanche in '68, Sheriff Logan, besides the Tramplers. Okay, we've also got Lon Cardine, played by Gordon Scott. We just covered him in Whatever Happened To. Obie Cordine was played by James Mitchum. Real name is Joshua Mitchum, and we covered him extensively in episode number 85. Then we have Charlie Garvin, who is played by Franco Nero. Real name is Franco Sparanero. We covered Franco in his own special episode in number 31. Okay, that's all I've got on that. So now we'll move along to CD of the week. Okay, CD of the week. The first thing that came out on this film, Buffalo Bill Hero of the Far West, was an LP that came out by Cam in 1964. Cam was based in Italy. Its number CMS 30-116, had 20 tracks of music. Listening time was 37 minutes. The value today is $215, so it's pretty valuable, pretty rare. Then in 2008, GDM released a CD of the film. This is a copy of the CD. It's on GDM 4116, has 32 tracks of music. Listening time is 58 minutes and 13 seconds. There's a limited edition of 500 copies. Apparently it's not worth very much. It's only worth $12 today, and it's still available. The composer of the music was Carlo Rusticelli, and we haven't talked about him before. Carlo Rusticelli was born in Capri, Emilia-Romagna, Italy on December 24th, 1916. He was a composer, conductor, arranger, songwriter, and actor from the old school of Italian films. He composed the scores for over 400 films during a career that stretched back to the 1930s, as well as music for television programs. He worked with such directors as Mario Bava and Billy Wilder. He was awarded 2 silver ribbons by the Italian National Syndicate of Film Journalists for his work. He scored 3 of the best films by Italian horror master Mario Bava: Blood and Black Lace, The Whip and the Body, Kill Baby Kill. He scored 22 spaghetti westerns. Some of the better known ones are A Minute to Pray, A Second to Die, The Ruthless Four, both in '67, Ace High and Boot Hill, both in '68, and Redcoat in '74. I was never a big fan of Carlo Rusticelli, at least as far as westerns were concerned. If you listen to his scores, they're not Morricone or Damasi or Nicolai based. He has his own style, and to me, they're more like background music and American based, not Italian sounding. Okay? Okay, from there we'll go to Autograph of the Week. Okay, Autograph of the Week would be what else? Gordon Scott. I think I've shown this before, but I got that at the Hollywood Collector Show when he was there with Steve Reeves. He would show up occasionally. Most of the time he spent in the bar, but he would be back at his table from time to time, and had many fans. Most of them still remembered him from his Sword and Sandal days, so he had few pictures of any of his Western work. Okay. Then I've got one poster of the week is the German Buffalo Bill, so we'll show that from Tom's attic. Okay, Tom's poster Addict. This is the poster for Buffalo Bill, German poster. Nice screenshot of Gordon Scott there. And that's the only poster I've got. We'll go now to the news of the week. Okay, news of the week. There's a new British Blu-ray limited edition, 5,000 numbered copies of The Big Gun Down, which was released on February 13th by Powerhouse Films / Limewood Media. It's out of the UK. It contains 2 discs and is region B. The package contains 3 versions of the film. The US theatrical cut, which is 90 minutes, on disc 2, the extended US cut, which is 95 minutes, with scenes that were added for the TV broadcast. The original 110-minute Italian version, Italian and English audio. The video is a 2K restoration. The original mono audio with isolated music and effects. Subtitles include a new and improved English subs for the deaf and hard of hearing on the US cut only, and for scenes of the uncut version never dubbed into English. Extras are too many to mention. You can find them listed on the Westerns All Italiana Facebook and the blog. I show all the extras there, so if you're interested, you can check on that, or you can go to the Spaghetti Western database and find out more information. And it has links to the different Amazon sites that are carrying the DVD Blu-ray. It's well worth picking up, but remember it's shipping from the UK, so it'll take a minute or two, in fact, a couple of weeks. The rest we've got basically bad news. First of all, this one hit us hard. R.I.P. Raquel Welch. American actress and sex symbol Raquel Welch died in Los Angeles, California after a short illness on February 15th, 2023. She was 82. Born Joe Raquel Tejada in Chicago, Illinois on September 5th, 1940, to a mother who could trace her ancestry to the Mayflower and a father from Bolivia. The family moved to San Diego, California, where she took ballet and acting lessons. As a teen, she won beauty contests and did some professional modeling. She came into the movie scene in 1966 with the sci-fi film Fantastic Voyage and the prehistoric adventure 1,000,000 years BC, the latter of which established Welch as a sex symbol. The actor went on to appear in the controversial adaptation of Gore Vidal's Myra Breckinridge, Kansas City Bomber, and Richard Lester's delightful romp, The Three Musketeers, in 1973, for which she won a Golden Globe, and The Four Musketeers, Milady's Revenge, in 1974. She was one of the first women to play the lead role, not a romantic interest, in a Western, 1971's A Revenge Tale, Annie Calder. An inspiration for Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill in 2003. That was according to him, Tarantino. Welch was married 4 times, including director-producer Patrick Curtis from 1967 to 1972. She is survived by a son, Damon Welch, and a daughter, actress Tawny Welch. Raquel starred in 2 spaghetti westerns, the previously mentioned Annie Calder in 1970 as Hanny, and co-starring Robert Culp and Ernest Borgnine in 69's 100 Rifles with Burt Reynolds and Jim Brown. I plan to do a special like we did this week with Gordon Scott on Raquel's 2 westerns in the next couple of weeks. Also, just the other day, right after Raquel, Stella Stevens passed away. Stella Stevens, the actress best known for her roles in The Nutty Professor and The Poseidon Adventure, and starring opposite Elvis Presley in Girls, 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 and Jason Robards in The Battle of Cable Hogue, died in Los Angeles on February 17th after a long battle with Alzheimer's disease. She was 84. Born Estelle Carl Eggleston on October 1st, 1938, in Yazoo City, Mississippi, she was a former Playboy centerfold from January 1960. Stevens was modeling in her hometown of Memphis when she was discovered and given a screen test by 20th Century Fox. She went on to stardom in both film and television in over 140 productions. She appeared in only one Euro Western as Elvira in 1971's A Town Called Hell with Robert Shaw and Telly Savalas. Jay and I both met and knew her and are deeply saddened by this loss. We knew she had Alzheimer's and she'd been battling it for a while, but it still came as a surprise when she passed. Then we have Billy Two Rivers. He was a Native American wrestler, council chief, activist, and actor. Billy Two Rivers died on February 12th in his hometown of Kawanaki, Quebec, Canada. The Mohawk elder was 86. Born on May 5, 1935, Two Rivers entered the wrestling scene in 1953 at the age of 17 after training with fellow Kawanaki wrestler Don Eagle. His signature vault over the top ropes to enter a match became a staple of a career that spanned the next 2 decades. Upon retiring from the ring, Two Rivers entered politics and was elected the Mohawk Council of Kawanaki in 1978, where he spent the next 20 years. Billy also appeared in several films, including the French-Canadian co-produced Euro-Western television series Tales of the Wild, where he appeared as Brokenfoot in Barry Wolfdog episodes. Last but not least, we have Dario Penny. He was a veteran Italian actor, voice actor, and dubber. Dario Penny died in Rome, Italy, 2 days before his 85th birthday. Born in Trieste, Italy, Penny was one of the most famous actors and dubbers in Italy. The voice actor who gave voices in Italian versions of films to such great actors as Anthony Hopkins, Michael Caine, Christopher Lloyd, Tommy Lee Jones, Christopher Cromwell, and many others passed away. Penny also became famous in the field of animation, where he was the voice of the bizarre robot Bender in the famous animated series Futurama. His voice remains associated with many unforgettable characters. Dario was the Italian voice in many spaghetti westerns over the years. His many dubbing roles are too lengthy to mention here, and you can click on, again, the Westerns All Italiana blog or Westerns All Italiana Facebook page to see a list of them. That concludes this week's episode of the Spaghetti Westerns podcast. This has been a Roberto Genesi production. I did want to show you, I finally got my sideshow model of Clint Eastwood. It was only 5 months late in coming, but it's really pretty cool. Even the cylinder on the pistol rotates. The poncho is rather thin, but otherwise you wouldn't be able to flip it around over his shoulder or whatever. It was much thicker. Comes with about 6 different hand configurations and a rifle and a posable stand. So anyone who's interested, they're still available now. Anyone who ordered it in England is probably on its way since I got it last Tuesday. Anyway, that's all for now. And until next week, we'll see you then. Adios, amigos.